Captain Maria Santos felt the ground vibrate beneath her boots as the alien transport descended through Earth's atmosphere. The massive crystalline vessel settled onto the landing platform with impossible grace, its hull shimmering like liquid mercury in the afternoon sun. She adjusted her ceremonial uniform and checked her weapon one final time. Queen Eleanor had insisted on personally greeting this delegation from the Zephyrian Empire, despite every security protocol screaming against it. "Final positions," Maria spoke into her comm device. Her team of 12 guards formed a precise perimeter around the landing zone. Each movement calculated, each angle covered. The queen emerged from the palace proper, her silver gown flowing like water across the polished stone. Eleanor moved with the confidence of someone who had ruled for 15 years, but Maria caught the slight tremor in her hands. The transport's door dissolved rather than opened, revealing the interior bathed in soft blue light. 3 figures emerged, their forms humanoid but unnaturally tall and graceful. The lead figure stepped forward, and Maria's breath caught in her throat. The alien woman stood nearly 7 feet tall, her skin holding an opalescent quality that shifted between pale gold and deep amber, depending on the angle of light. Her hair fell in waves of pure silver, and her eyes held depths that seemed to contain entire galaxies. Queen Eleanor stopped walking. Maria had seen the queen face down rebellions, natural disasters, and diplomatic crises without flinching. But now, Eleanor stood frozen, her lips parted slightly, color rising in her cheeks. The alien ambassador's gaze found the queen immediately, and something electric passed between them across the 50 yards of empty space. "Your Majesty," Maria whispered through her comm, "we should proceed with the formal greeting." But Eleanor didn't respond. The queen's eyes remained locked with those of the alien woman, and Maria watched as both figures began moving toward each other with increasing speed. Protocol demanded that the alien delegation approach the designated meeting point where formal introductions would occur under maximum security coverage. Instead, Eleanor broke into what could only be described as a run. Her gown gathered in her hands, her crown slightly askew. She crossed the landing platform like a woman possessed. The alien ambassador matched her pace, moving with fluid steps that barely seemed to touch the ground. Other security personnel shifted nervously, hands moving toward weapons. "Stand down!" Maria commanded sharply. "No one moves without my direct order." The 2 women met in the center of the platform. Eleanor reached out with trembling fingers to touch the alien's face, and the ambassador leaned into the contact as if she had been waiting her entire life for this moment. They spoke no words, but their communication transcended language. The alien woman's expression held wonder and recognition, as if she were looking at someone she had lost long ago. "Captain Santos," came the urgent voice of Lieutenant Hayes through her earpiece, "the diplomatic corps is requesting immediate intervention. This is not following any established protocol." Maria watched the queen and the ambassador standing together, their foreheads nearly touching, both seeming to glow in the strange light emanating from the crystalline ship. Eleanor's usual composed mask had completely fallen away, replaced by raw emotion that made her look decades younger. The alien woman raised her hand to mirror Eleanor's touch, and both women closed their eyes simultaneously. "Captain, we have a situation," Hayes pressed. "The Zephyrian escort is requesting clarification on proceedings." The other 2 aliens remained at a respectful distance, but Maria could see their postures suggested confusion rather than concern. Whatever was happening between their ambassador and the human queen, they seemed to understand it better than anyone else present. The male figure actually stepped back further, as if giving them more space was the appropriate response. Maria made a decision that would either save 2 worlds or destroy her career. "All personnel maintain current positions. No interference until I give the command. This is a direct order." Eleanor and the ambassador began speaking in hushed tones, their words carried away by the wind. But their body language told a story older than civilization itself. Recognition. Connection. Love that defied explanation or logic. The queen's royal composure had dissolved completely, replaced by something ancient and primal. The alien woman reached into a fold of her garment and withdrew something small and crystalline. She placed it in Eleanor's palm, closing the queen's fingers around it gently. Eleanor gasped audibly, her eyes flying open to stare at the ambassador with newfound intensity. Maria realized she was witnessing something that would change the course of both species forever. The question was whether she would protect it or stop it. The queen turned toward Maria, her face radiant with tears and joy, holding the crystal against her heart. The alien ambassador placed her hand on Eleanor's shoulder, and they both looked at the captain with expressions that pleaded for understanding. In that moment, Maria understood that her duty extended far beyond protecting a single ruler. She was protecting the future itself. Eleanor's voice carried across the platform, clear and commanding despite her emotional state. "Captain Santos, please arrange for private quarters for Ambassador." She looked questioningly at the alien woman. "Lyrelay," the ambassador replied, her voice like music made audible. "And yes, I would very much like to stay." Maria found herself smiling despite every regulation she was about to break. "Of course, Your Majesty. I'll handle the arrangements immediately." The moment Eleanor heard the alien ambassador's name, something shifted in the air around them. She repeated it softly, like a prayer she had forgotten how to say. Lyrelay. The syllables rolled off her tongue with impossible familiarity, and the tall woman's entire demeanor changed. Where moments before she had carried herself with diplomatic formality, now she swayed slightly, as if Eleanor's voice had unlocked something dormant within her. "You remember," Lyrelay whispered, stepping closer until they stood within arm's reach. "I hoped, but I never dared believe." Maria watched the exchange with growing unease. Remember what? The Queen had never met any alien species before this moment. Earth's first contact protocols were barely 3 months old, established after the Zephyrian Empire's initial diplomatic transmission had reached their solar system. Yet Eleanor nodded as if Lyrelay's words made perfect sense. "The dreams," Eleanor breathed. "You've been in my dreams for years. I thought I was losing my mind." Lieutenant Hayes appeared at Maria's elbow, his expression tense. "Captain, the diplomatic team is demanding explanations. Ambassador Chen wants to know why formal procedures had been abandoned. The Zephyrian escort is asking if this is normal human greeting behavior." Maria raised her hand for silence while keeping her eyes fixed on the two women. Eleanor had taken Lyrelay's hands in hers, and both were speaking rapidly in voices too low to overhear, but their body language suggested they were sharing secrets, completing conversations that had been interrupted long ago. "How long have you been waiting?" Eleanor asked, her voice carrying across the platform. 73 of your years," Lyrelay replied without hesitation. "Since the dreams began showing me this world, this moment, your face. I convinced my people to make contact because I knew you were here." The implications hit Maria like a physical blow. The alien ambassador hadn't come as part of routine exploration or diplomatic expansion. She had guided her people to Earth, specifically to find Eleanor, which meant either this was the most elaborate deception in galactic history, or something beyond current human understanding was occurring. Eleanor pulled the crystal from her pocket, holding it up to catch the light. It pulsed with internal luminescence that matched the rhythm of her heartbeat. "This is how you found me. It's how we found each other," Lyrelay corrected gently. "The bonding crystals appear when two souls are meant to bridge worlds. My people have legends about them, but none thought they could work across species barriers." "Your Majesty," Maria interrupted, unable to remain silent any longer. "With respect, we need to discuss the security implications of this situation. If you've been experiencing prescient dreams about alien contact, our intelligence departments need debriefing sessions immediately." Eleanor turned to face her captain, and Maria was startled by the Queen's expression. Gone was any trace of uncertainty or emotional overwhelm. Instead, Eleanor's features held the serene confidence of someone who had just solved a puzzle that had been tormenting her for years. "Captain, I need you to trust me," Eleanor said firmly. "What's happening here is unprecedented, but it's not dangerous. Lyrelay's people don't want conquest or resources. They're explorers of connections, searching for bonds that can unite different worlds peacefully." "How can you possibly know that?" Hayes demanded, stepping forward despite Maria's warning glare. Lyrelay answered instead. Because the crystal works both ways. Your queen now has access to my memories, my intentions, my people's true nature, just as I have seen her world through her eyes, felt her genuine desire for peaceful coexistence. Maria felt the ground shifting beneath everything she thought she understood about reality. You're talking about telepathic connection. More than that, Eleanor said softly. We're talking about souls that recognized each other across impossible distances. I know how it sounds, Maria, but I also know that every decision I've made as queen, every policy I've enacted, every choice that brought peace to our world, was guided by dreams I thought were fantasy, dreams of her. The queen gestured toward Lyrelay, who nodded solemnly. My people call it the Great Weaving. When consciousness reaches across the void to find its complement, creating bonds that can heal the wounds between worlds. We've searched for 300 years for another species capable of this connection, Hayes scoffed. This is insane. You're talking about abandoning all rational diplomatic procedure based on mystical claims and shared dreams. No, Maria said quietly, her mind working through the implications. I'm watching two leaders who somehow managed to establish trust and understanding in 5 minutes that typically takes years to build. If this connection is real, if it allows for genuine communication without the barriers that cause most interspecies conflicts, she paused, looking between Eleanor and Lyrelay. Both women stood patiently, allowing the humans to process what they were witnessing. Their calm certainty was more convincing than any argument could have been. We could be looking at the foundation for lasting peace between our peoples, Maria concluded. Eleanor smiled, the expression transforming her face completely. Exactly. Maria, I need you to arrange quarters for Lyrelay and her companions. We have years of lost time to make up for, and two worlds that need to learn how to build something beautiful together. Lyrelay raised Eleanor's hand to her lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her knuckles. The gesture sent visible shivers through the queen, and the crystal in her other hand blazed with brighter light. I am at your service, your majesty, Lyrelay said formally, but her eyes held promises of much more intimate service to come. Maria realized she was no longer just protecting a queen. She was protecting the birth of something entirely new. Over the following days, Maria watched the impossible become routine. Eleanor and Lyrelay spent every possible moment together, walking through the palace gardens, sharing meals, and engaging in conversations that seemed to cover lifetimes of experiences. The other Zephyrian delegates, Korath and Solana, integrated seamlessly with the human diplomatic corps, answering questions about their technology and culture with patient thoroughness. But it was the transformation in Eleanor that captured everyone's attention. The queen, who had ruled with careful calculation and measured responses, now moved with fluid grace and easy laughter. She had always been an effective leader, but now she radiated a confidence that seemed to energize everyone around her. Even the most skeptical court officials found themselves drawn into her enthusiasm for this unprecedented alliance. The biochemical compatibility is remarkable, Dr. Patricia Williams reported during the daily security briefing. Whatever the bonding process involves, it's enhanced the Queen's cognitive function, emotional stability, and physical health. Her stress markers have dropped to levels we've never recorded. Maria nodded, reviewing the latest intelligence reports. Any indications that she's being influenced or controlled? None whatsoever. If anything, her decision-making abilities have become sharper. She's processing complex policy decisions faster than ever before, and her judgments have been consistently sound. The connection appears to be purely beneficial. Lieutenant Hayes remained unconvinced. What about the alien's motivations? We still have no independent verification of her claims about this bonding process. Actually, we do, Dr. Williams contradicted. I've been monitoring both of them continuously. When they're in physical contact, their brainwave patterns synchronize in ways that should be impossible given their different neurological structures. They're literally sharing thoughts and emotions in real time. Maria had witnessed this phenomenon herself. During yesterday's diplomatic session, Eleanor had been struggling to explain a complex human cultural concept to the Zephyrian delegates. Lyrelay had simply placed her hand on Eleanor's shoulder, and suddenly both women had begun speaking in perfect unison. their voices weaving together to create an explanation that neither could have articulated alone. "The question," Maria said slowly, "is whether this connection strengthens or compromises Eleanor's ability to rule effectively." Her answer came sooner than expected. King Marcus of the Northern Alliance had chosen this week to push territorial disputes that had been simmering for months. His ambassadors arrived, demanding concessions Eleanor had repeatedly refused, apparently believing the alien presence indicated weakness or distraction. Maria accompanied Eleanor to the formal audience, with Lyrale walking slightly behind and to the left in accordance with diplomatic protocol. The Zephyrian ambassador's presence clearly unsettled the northern delegation, but they pressed forward with their demands anyway. "Your Majesty," Ambassador Barrett declared, "King Marcus requires immediate resolution of the mining rights dispute. Your continued refusal to negotiate is being interpreted as an act of aggression." Eleanor sat perfectly still on her throne, but Maria could see the slight tension in her shoulders. These negotiations had been ongoing for over a year, with the Northern Alliance consistently escalating their demands and threatening military action if refused. "Ambassador Barrett," Eleanor replied calmly, "my position remains unchanged. The disputed territories contain irreplaceable ecosystems that provide crucial environmental services for the entire continent. Mining operations would cause permanent damage that far outweighs any economic benefits. King Marcus disagrees with your environmental assessment. Our experts believe the impact would be minimal and easily contained." Eleanor's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Maria had seen this expression before, usually right before the Queen delivered a response that ended negotiations permanently. But instead of speaking, Eleanor glanced toward Lyrale. The alien ambassador stepped forward with fluid grace. "May I respectfully offer a perspective from my people's experience?" she asked, her voice carrying strange harmonics that seemed to resonate in everyone present. Barrett looked uncertain, but nodded grudgingly. "The Northern Alliance is willing to hear all viewpoints. On Zephyr Prime, we face similar challenges, balancing resource extraction with ecological preservation," Lyrale explained. "We discovered that environmental damage in one region inevitably affects the entire planetary system in ways we hadn't anticipated. The apparent benefits of short-term extraction were completely negated by long-term consequences. With respect, Ambassador, conditions on your world may not apply to ours," Barrett responded stiffly. Lyrale smiled, an expression that somehow managed to be both gentle and implacable. "Perhaps not. But we also learn that disputes over resources often mask deeper issues of trust and communication between neighboring peoples. Would King Marcus be willing to consider alternative forms of cooperation that address his people's economic needs without environmental destruction?" Maria watched Barrett's expression shift as he processed the implications. The alien ambassador had just reframed the entire dispute, moving it from a zero-sum conflict to a collaborative problem-solving opportunity. Eleanor leaned forward slightly. "What did you have in mind, Lyrale?" "Zephyrian technology includes methods for extracting valuable minerals without disturbing surface ecosystems. We would be willing to share these techniques with both your peoples, creating economic opportunities that benefit everyone without environmental costs." The silence in the throne room stretched for nearly a minute. Barrett was clearly calculating the implications of this offer, while Eleanor waited with the patience of someone who already knew the outcome. "I would need to consult with King Marcus," Barrett said finally. "This is an unexpected development." "Of course," Eleanor replied graciously. "Take all the time you need. Ambassador Lyrale and I are committed to finding solutions that serve everyone's interests." After Barrett's departure, Maria approached the throne. "That was masterfully handled, Your Majesty." Eleanor stood, reaching for Lyrale's hand. "The solution came from both of us. I provided the environmental context. She provided the technological alternative. Neither of us could have resolved this alone." Lyrale squeezed Eleanor's fingers gently. "This is what the bonding makes possible, not just personal connection, but the ability to approach problems from multiple perspectives simultaneously." Maria found herself genuinely impressed. Rather than compromising Eleanor's leadership, the connection with Lyrale had enhanced it exponentially. The Queen now had access to knowledge and perspectives that allowed her to solve conflicts that had seemed intractable just days before. How many other disputes could be resolved this way? Maria asked. Eleanor and Lyreley exchanged a look that seemed to communicate volumes. "All of them?" they said in perfect unison, smiling at their synchronized response. Maria realized she was witnessing the birth of a new form of diplomacy, one that could transform how species and civilizations interacted with each other. The implications were staggering. The crystal's light pulsed gently in Eleanor's pocket, a constant reminder that some connections transcended all boundaries. Word of the Northern Alliance resolution spread throughout the diplomatic community within hours. By evening, Maria found herself coordinating requests from 17 different nations and 3 off-world colonies, all seeking Eleanor and Lyreley's mediation on various disputes. The Queen's calendar, typically planned months in advance, suddenly required daily restructuring. "They're calling it the Harmony Protocol," Hayes reported, scrolling through intelligence briefings. Early reports suggest King Marcus is actually enthusiastic about the technological exchange. His mining engineers are already requesting detailed specifications. Maria reviewed the security implications of expanded alien contact. "What's the status on the Zephyrian mining technology?" "Completely non-weaponizable," Dr. Williams confirmed. "It uses resonance frequencies to separate materials at the molecular level. No explosive potential, no radioactive components, no possibility of conversion to military applications. It's actually remarkably elegant." Eleanor entered the briefing room with Lyreley beside her, both women carrying stacks of correspondence. The alien ambassador had adapted remarkably well to human bureaucracy, though her method of reading entire documents in seconds continued to astonish the staff. "Maria, we need to discuss expanding the security protocols," Eleanor announced. 3 more Zephyrian ships are requesting permission to dock. Apparently, news of successful bonding has spread throughout their empire. "More ambassadors?" Maria asked, though she strongly suspected the answer was more complicated. Lyreley shook her head, her silver hair catching the light. "Not ambassadors, seekers. My people who've been experiencing dreams of humans, just as I dreamed of Eleanor. The bonding crystals are manifesting throughout both our populations." The implications hit Maria immediately. "You're talking about multiple psychic connections between our species." 57 confirmed cases so far, Eleanor said quietly. "Humans reporting dreams of specific alien individuals and Zephyrians experiencing the same phenomenon in reverse. The crystals are appearing spontaneously in response to these connections." Hayes whistled low. "This is beyond first contact. This is species-wide integration." "It's evolution," Lyreley corrected gently. "Consciousness reaching across the void to create bridges where none existed before. My people's scientists believe it's triggered when 2 species reach compatible levels of emotional and intellectual development." Maria felt the weight of history settling on her shoulders. "What kind of security considerations are we looking at for multiple bonding ceremonies?" "Actually, the bonded individuals seem to create their own security network," Dr. Williams interjected. "The emotional connections apparently include protective instincts toward the partner species. We're looking at self-reinforcing peaceful relationships." Eleanor pulled out her crystal, which had grown noticeably brighter over the past week. "Each bonding strengthens all the others. Lyreley and I can sense the other connected pairs, feel their emotions and insights. It's creating a network of understanding that spans both worlds." "A collective consciousness?" Hayes asked, concern creeping into his voice. "Not collective," Lyreley explained. "Collaborative. Each bonded pair maintains their individual personalities and decision-making autonomy, but gains access to shared wisdom and emotional support from the network." Maria walked to the window overlooking the landing platforms. 3 more crystalline ships were visible on the horizon, approaching like luminous birds against the sunset sky. Each carried individuals seeking connections that would reshape both civilizations. "Your Majesty, I need to understand how this affects your role as Queen. Are you still governing Earth independently, or are decisions being influenced by this larger network?" Eleanor joined her at the window, Lyreley's hand finding hers automatically. "I'm governing better than I ever have, Maria. The network provides perspective and wisdom, but the choices remain mine. If anything, I have more clarity about what's best for humanity because I can see our needs from outside our own limited viewpoint." "Show her," Lyreley suggested softly. Eleanor extended her free hand toward Maria. The crystals can create temporary connections with non-bonded individuals. You could experience what we're describing firsthand. Maria hesitated, her training warring with her curiosity. Every protocol she'd ever learned screamed against allowing unknown alien technology to interface with her consciousness. But she thought about the impossible solutions Eleanor and Lyreley had generated, the peace they'd created where conflict had seemed inevitable. "Is it safe?" she asked Dr. Williams. "All monitoring suggests it's completely harmless. Temporary exposure to the bonding network has actually enhanced cognitive function in test subjects. What would I experience?" "The emotional resonance of the connected pairs," Eleanor explained. "Their hopes, their genuine care for both our peoples, their commitment to building something beautiful together. You'd feel what I feel when I'm with Lyreley. Understand why this connection is so powerful." Maria took Eleanor's hand and immediately felt warmth spreading from the point of contact. The crystal's light intensified, and suddenly she could sense the presence of dozens of other consciousness pairs, scattered across both worlds. Each connection pulsed with love, wonder, and unshakable determination to protect this miraculous bridge between species. The emotions were overwhelming in their purity. No deception, no hidden agendas, no trace of manipulation or conquest, just profound recognition and the desire to build a future where both civilizations could thrive together. She understood instantly why Eleanor had abandoned protocol that first day. This wasn't about diplomacy or politics or strategic advantage. This was about two species evolving together into something greater than either could achieve alone. Maria released Eleanor's hand, tears streaming down her face. "How many more ships are coming?" "As many as necessary," Lyreley replied simply, "until every seeking soul finds their match, and both our worlds are united in understanding." Eleanor squeezed Maria's shoulder. "And we need to be ready to protect them all. Every bonded pair, every connection, every bridge between our peoples. That's our mission now." Maria straightened her shoulders, feeling purpose settle around her like armor. "Then we'd better get to work. We have a new world to build." 6 months later, Maria stood on the balcony of the newly constructed Integration Center, watching the daily shuttle traffic between Earth and the Zephyrian ships in orbit. What had begun as a single diplomatic contact had transformed into the largest peaceful migration in recorded history. Nearly 2,000 bonded pairs now called Earth home, with an equal number of humans living among the Zephyrian fleet. The changes to human society had been profound and overwhelmingly positive. Crime rates had plummeted as the bonded pairs network provided early warning about potential conflicts. Scientific advancement had accelerated exponentially through shared Zephyrian knowledge. Most remarkably, the average emotional well-being of both species had improved dramatically, as if the very presence of the connections elevated everyone around them. Eleanor appeared beside her, no longer wearing traditional royal garments, but rather the flowing practical clothes that had become standard among the integrated community. Her bond crystal hung openly on a chain around her neck, pulsing gently in rhythm with Lyreley's, who approached from the other direction carrying their infant daughter. "The council meeting went well?" Maria asked, though the peaceful expressions on both women's faces already provided the answer. "Better than well," Eleanor replied, taking her daughter from Lyreley's arms. The baby, born 3 months ago, represented the first successful human Zephyrian hybrid and had become a symbol of hope for both species. Her eyes held depths even greater than her alien parents, and her cries could somehow harmonize with both human and Zephyrian music. "The Mars colony proposals have been approved," Lyreley added. "Joint expeditions, shared technology, integrated crews. We'll have our first interplanetary settlement within 2 years." Maria smiled, remembering her initial fears about alien contact compromising human independence. Instead, humanity had gained partners who enhanced their capabilities while respecting their autonomy. The bonding network had created a form of cooperation she'd never thought possible. "Any regrets?" she asked Eleanor, "about abandoning traditional monarchy for this new form of governance?" Eleanor laughed, the sound carrying musical harmonics she developed through constant contact with Lyreley. "How could I regret becoming part of something so much larger than myself? I was a good queen, Maria, but I'm an infinitely better leader as part of this connected community." The people seem to agree, Maria observed. Eleanor's approval ratings had never been higher, despite her radically changed role. Rather than ruling through authority, she now guided through wisdom and consensus, with the bonding network providing insight into the genuine needs and desires of both species. Hayes joined them on the balcony, carrying the latest integration reports. Ma'am, we've got confirmation on the next wave of arrivals. 5 more Zephyrian ships carrying seekers who've been dreaming of specific humans. The matching process is getting faster and more precise. Any security concerns? Maria asked, though she already knew the answer. In 6 months of expanding contact, there had been exactly 0 incidents of conflict between the species. The bonding network seemed to make deception and aggression impossible. None whatsoever, Hayes confirmed. If anything, each new bonding strengthens the peaceful framework for everyone involved. The connected pairs are beginning to display extraordinary problem-solving abilities when working together. Maria nodded, watching a group of human and Zephyrian children playing together in the gardens below. They communicated through a mixture of words, gestures, and what appeared to be low-level telepathic connection. The next generation would grow up taking interspecies collaboration for granted. "Captain," Eleanor said formally, "I have a question for you." "Of course, Your Majesty. You've been exposed to the bonding network multiple times now through our temporary connections. Have you experienced any dreams or unusual emotions lately?" She had been experiencing dreams, vivid ones featuring a tall Zephyrian male with golden skin and eyes like warm amber. But she'd attributed them to extended exposure to the alien presence, not to any personal connection. "Perhaps," she admitted reluctantly. Lyrelay smiled knowingly. "His name is Corvain. He's aboard the ship arriving tomorrow, and he's been dreaming of a human woman with dark hair and fierce protective instincts, a woman who stands guard over those she loves without wavering." "You've spoken to him?" Maria asked, her heart suddenly racing. "The network allows communication across vast distances," Eleanor explained gently. "He's been asking about you specifically, wondering if the woman in his dreams is real." Maria looked out at the approaching ships, knowing that her carefully ordered world was about to change forever. Part of her wanted to retreat into familiar duty and routine, but a larger part had been yearning for something she hadn't even realized was missing. "What if I don't know how to do this?" she asked quietly. "I'm a soldier, not a diplomat or a lover." Eleanor shifted her daughter to one arm and placed her free hand on Maria's shoulder. "Love isn't something you do, Maria. It's something you recognize. And from what I can sense through the network, recognition is exactly what's waiting for you." The crystal around Eleanor's neck pulsed brighter, and Maria felt a warmth spreading through her chest that had nothing to do with the afternoon sun. Somewhere among the stars, someone was thinking of her with the same intensity she'd been trying to ignore in herself. "I suppose I should meet him?" she said, surprised by the steadiness of her own voice. "I suppose you should," Eleanor agreed, smiling with the radiant joy of someone who had found her perfect match and wanted the same happiness for everyone she cared about. As the first stars began appearing in the darkening sky, Maria realized she was no longer just protecting a queen or a planet or even a species. She was protecting the most beautiful thing she'd ever witnessed, the miracle of consciousness reaching across impossible distances to find love, understanding, and hope. Tomorrow, her own miracle would arrive. Tonight, she would dream of golden eyes and gentle hands, and wake with her heart finally ready for the greatest adventure of her life. The universe was vast and strange and wonderful, but it was no longer lonely. Love had built bridges between the stars, and Maria Santos, captain of the Royal Guard, was finally ready to cross one of those bridges herself. In the distance, the crystal ships sang their approach through harmonics that touched every bonded pair on Earth, a lullaby of coming reunion that would change everything forever.